again, daylight savings time is just really kicking my tushy this year. I feel like I'm finally starting to gain some traction. I'm not quite as sleepy, but man, my mornings, and my alarm goes off at 5:15 in the morning, so my mornings have been rough. Hello, my name is Michelle, and this is Michelle's Fiber Studio podcast. Today is Monday, March the 24th, and this is episode number 43. Well, welcome. Thank you for hanging with me. I kind of took an unexpected break last week. I was just worn out. I think I have this in my notes for later on, but the time change this year has just really, you know, the older I get, the harder I'm finding I'm adjusting, and I have just been so exhausted. I'm just really struggling this year. But anyway, here I am. I have a lot to share with you. It is snowing out right now. Here, actually, let me turn. Can you guys see out that window? Yeah, it's one of those late spring storms that happens. It started only, oh gosh, maybe 12:30, 1:45, and by the time I left school, there was already a solid inch and a half. My son got home at 2 and shoveled my stairs, and I am looking at them, and they have got another couple of inches already on them, and it is 3:30 right now in an hour and a half. So I think it's like 5 to 6 inches, 5 to 7 inches, something like that we should get. But then by like 9 o'clock, it's done. And this is Maine, and it is late March, which means that by the weekend it'll probably be all melted, and it doesn't last. It's just a nuisance. But at any rate, let me talk about what I am wearing today. I have two different knits that I have worn to school. Actually, I'm going to take off my scarf because I want you to see the top of my sweater here. This is my Trellis and Vine Pullover by Carol Feller. It's got this really pretty laciness on the top. I think I've talked about this before, but I knit it back in 2017. I started it in the middle of February and finished it in November, and it is knit out of the Knit Picks Simply Cotton Organic Sport in Malted Milk. And I was looking at it this morning as I was getting ready for work, and it's pilling a little bit like in the arm. But other than that, it really is holding up quite well. And I'd actually forgotten that it was as old as it is. It's, what, 8 years old. So that's pretty good. And then my other project is my little shawl here is Flirty by Hilary Latimer. I knit this last summer out of Miss Bab's Yummy 2-ply toes. So, and I know I've talked a lot about this one, including when I was knitting it. So I'm not going to talk a lot about it right now. Marta has on, here, let me pull her into frame a little bit better. There we go. And Marta has on a cowl. I pulled it out last weekend when I was going to record and then was super tired and didn't. But the reason I pulled it out is because I called this my humane cowl. And last week was spring break, so my son was home from college for the week. So in honor of him, I was going to talk about my humane cowl, and I decided that in honor of the fact that I just spent the week with him, I will still talk about it. And actually, I could say, now I know like this much about hockey, but the humane men's hockey team just won, I think it was the quarterfinals last week, I do believe, which is a big deal. So that's what we'll say that this is celebrating. But anyway, the pattern itself is CoPilot by Dominique Trad. The yarn is the Biscotti Yarns Bis Sock in the Humane colorway, and I knit it in the summer of 2023. So I knit it primarily so I'd have something to wear to football games. It doesn't get a lot of use. I should pull it out a little bit more and wear it. I like the colors, actually. It's their colors, the dark blue and the like sky blue with the white. I don't know, I should pull it out more often, but at any rate, those are our knits. So let's go ahead and dive in. I have no new projects on my blocking board, although I'm this close on a couple. I'm hoping next week I'll have lots of stuff to talk to you about in that category. But for this week, let's start with my Faro Sweater by Tara-Lynn Morrison. This is coming right along, and I'm quite happy with it. Oops, it's caught. There we go. So I don't remember at what point I was at last time I talked to you. I think I had just barely started like the neck and maybe was down into here. But I have both sleeves and I'm just finishing the last of the body. I have 4, 5, maybe 6 inches to go. The yarn that I'm using is by Joji and Yamo. Here is my tag. And it's color 7. Not very exciting. But that is the yarn I'm using. It's a super bulky wool, 85-15 wool alpaca. And let's talk. I'm really not liking the pattern. It's fine. Like, it's a simple pattern. I like the pattern itself. I'm frustrated with the pattern. That is probably the better way to put it. There's several things that I'm going to be honest that I am struggling with around it. It is a paid for pattern. I paid $7.50, which, to be frank, makes these things that I'm frustrated with all the more frustrating because it's a paid for pattern, and it's not like a $6 or a $5 paid for pattern. It is almost $8. So the first thing that I'm not liking is that there is no schematic. So she does tell you the chest measurements. I think it's 20, 22 and a quarter, and 25, I think, are the measurements across. I'm assuming the finished measurements of the sweater. And she tells you how long to knit the sleeve from the armpit down, but there's nothing that tells you like how wide the sleeve should be, how deep the yoke is. Like, I was kind of really struggling in trying to figure out the fit for myself and where it was falling as compared to my gauge. It doesn't give a recommended ease, so that also makes it hard to figure out the gauge. It does tell you that the model is 5'9", is wearing the small medium, but it doesn't give her bust size. Like, you can be 5'9" and a 40 double D, or you can be 5'9" and a 32A. So like that's really not that helpful. And then on top of it, there was an error in the pattern, so which was making the fact that there was no schematic really tricky to figure out. The numbers were off in one of the spots, and only one person made note of it in their completed. So I thought I was going crazy. I'm like, okay, this is how many I have cast on, or how many I should have, and it's telling me to decrease this many times or increase this many times, but I'm not ending up with the same number that they are. And it was, I have figured it out, and it is a simple pattern. I am well versed in knitting, so I was able to figure it out. But yeah, so those are the frustrating things. And then really the other final frustrating thing is I ran out of yarn. So the pattern says that it will take between 300 to 360 yards. That is for the size small, which is 20 inches or a 40-inch sweater, up to a 50-inch sweater. I'm knitting a 40-inch sweater, and so technically I should only need 300 yards. These balls of yarn have 175, so 350 yards, and I ran out. So this is, again, where I'm at. You can see the depth from my armpit, and it's rolling a little bit, but it's not all that much longer. But I definitely ran out, and my sleeves are really probably a little shorter than I would want them to be. As it happened, we were in the area of my local yarn store on Saturday. I was pretty much convinced I hadn't quite used up the last of the yarn. I did that yesterday. But I was pretty sure that I was gonna want an extra ball of yarn, so I stopped by. They still had it because I just got it the first weekend in March at the spa event. And actually, as it happened, they were having a sale and it was 40% off. So no harm, no foul, right? So now I have a whole nother ball of yarn ready to add on here. I am going to knit it as long as my little heart desires. And then once I've done that, I think I'm actually gonna pick out the bind off on the sleeves, and I might add another inch or so to the sleeves. So, oh, and the other thing that I did too that is frustrating is I actually decreased in my sleeves. You can kind of see it a little bit. I did not want the wide boxiness of the sleeve all the way down to like my cuff. So I decided to throw in some decreases. So in theory, I should have had plenty of yarn. So I'm a little annoyed at all of those facts. That said, now that I have knit the pattern once, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to knitting it again, going into it with all my eyes wide open, going into it with my eyes wide open, and having a finished sweater to measure and kind of go against, because I do have I have another, like a batch of acrylic kind of bulky-ish yarn that I would consider knitting into this. But it's just a little frustrating considering that it's such a simple pattern and it was $7.50. So buyer beware, I guess. And frankly, I will think twice before buying another one of her patterns, because it clearly was not tech edited, because the error that I found should have been caught if it was tech edited properly. But anyway, I'm gonna stop complaining now. Hopefully, I'm really hoping that I will finish this week, and next week I will have a finished sweater to show you on this one. Okay, put that aside. Let's talk about my other sweater, shall we? My Longline Cardigan by Joji Locatelli is coming along. And this one is almost done as well. Dare I say I could have 2 sweaters next week? Wouldn't that be cool, right? So my sleeves are both completed, and I am working on the body. I have completed all of the increases. I just finished merging in my new ball of yarn. You can see a little bit of the striping, and from here on out it's going to be the darker color, but I think it's going to actually be a pretty cool effect. I'm kind of excited. It is standing out more. I did the same thing on the sleeve. Oh, I guess you can see it on the sleeve, but it's a shorter segment. But I think it's going to work out great. It'll add a little bit of interest and is a good way for me to use up this yarn in a great sweater. So let me talk about my yarns. I have the primary yarn is Schackenmeyer Regia Bamboo. This is yarn I've had for probably 4 or 5 years, and it is a bamboo blend. Is it just a color number, I think? Yeah, just a color number. I had 3 balls of this. And then when I got concerned that I wasn't going to have enough, I went to my local yarn store and I picked up some Gusto wool. And this is a wool nylon blend? Yeah, a wool nylon blend. So this is not the attached ball. This is the one I used on the sleeves, but it's the same yarn. So it's working quite well, and I think it's gonna be cool. And I have about 4 inches, I think, to go on the body before I do the ribbing, and then the ribbing is only like 2.5 inches long. So there's a strong possibility. I'm not gonna say for sure, but I'm gonna push. It stays Monday, and I'm gonna really push to get actually both of these sweaters done. I think that would be really cool. I have a couple of other sweater projects kind of rolling around my head, and my birthday is next week, so how fun would it be to be able to cast on a new sweater for my birthday? Yeah, I think I can do that. I think I can get those done. All right, the next projects I'm gonna take out is my Musselburgh, or my husband's Musselburgh. And this one got a lot of love in the last 2 weeks. So the last time I podcasted, I was right here, and I got all of that done. And my second marker right here, We had a workshop day on Friday, a whole day workshop, and I got all of that done just sitting in the workshop. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in my day-to-day segment, but that is coming along too. I'm really pleased with it. We had several different events that this came to, and when I get to the day-to-day section, I'll talk about those, but this got a lot of love in those situations. I had a lot of out and about time. So I just measured this one. I'm about 10 inches in, so and I want to knit it to about 19. So I'm just over halfway. Yeah, so this one we'll keep picking away at this one. The yarn, in case you have forgotten, that's my ball of yarn. And it is my not Knit Picks, it is my Yarnables yarn in Intergalactic, which was my January Yarnables yarn. So that one is, yeah, making really great progress. So hopefully it doesn't come to a screeching halt now that I've gotten such a great big chunk done. I should really push, not for next week. The 2 sweaters are going to be my priority for sure. But it would be great to get this one off the needles as well. I have a lot of active projects, although if you've noticed in this last month, I've really narrowed my focus. I have my other shawl. What was the even? I don't remember the name. Oh, the Secret Ingredient shawl. I haven't even touched it this month at all. Set it aside. I have my Christmas blanket that I made, the Yorkshire crochet along. I haven't touched that one. And I've decided I just really needed to kind of focus in on some projects to try to see if I can get some things to completion. They were, you know, a couple of big projects. So the last project I'm going to talk about is my Northeasterly blanket. The Northeasterly, again, is by Katy Stevens. And this is my mystery knit along that I am doing with yarn from Wool and Woman Fibers. I have only added in, well, 2.5. In fact, my third color is, I stopped halfway through yesterday. So I gotta get crack-a-lackin' on this one. It is the 24th. Technically, I only have a month to finish the rest of these colors, and I only have 3. And actually, look, the first one is not even the full color. There's another 3 rows to go. So that was color 1 and color 2, and then color 3 is about halfway. So that is my projects, and I'm having a great time with what I'm doing, and I'm kind of excited to see what the next week brings. I do actually have some project dreams beyond the ones and the sweaters that are just kind of rolling around in my brain. I do want to cast on the Stephen West shawl that I have the yarn for, that I've had since like November. But I have a little bit more concrete plans. Knitty Natty is going to be doing a crochet along in the month of April for her float tote. She has just reworked the pattern, and she's always wanted to do a crochet along. So again, her float tote, this is the float tote that I did, my original float tote that I have made. This is the 3 skein one. I've currently got my Northeasterly blanket project living in it. And it's a free crochet along, and I think you get is it a 50% off or 40% off coupon for the pattern. So if you don't already have the pattern, then it's a great opportunity to get it. She is going to release a video each week with part of the, you'll get the whole pattern when you get it, but the video each week is going to take you through a part of the pattern, and she is really gearing this so that it can be a great introductory project. If you haven't really done a whole lot of crocheting, it should be pretty achievable. My hope, and the kind of the biggest reason that I want to do it, and my mom is going to probably be sitting there laughing. I'm sure you're laughing, Mom. Because when she first introduced me to the float tote, I kind of poo-pooed it, and then I decided I wanted to make one last winter, or last spring, I guess, and I love it, and now here I am making a second one. So yes, Mom, you can laugh. It's okay. But the biggest reason, or one of the biggest reasons I wanted to use it, is I thought that I could use some of that Hobby Lobby I Love This cotton that I bought last fall, that I had bought with the intention of knitting all those little bags for my nieces or crocheting rather, the bags for my nieces that I didn't do. And you hold 2 strands together, so I think it'll make a really fun mold project. I could do that. I could stripe it, like, because I've already done one, I'm not necessarily gonna follow the crochet along week by week or week for week with exactly what Natalie is prescribing or putting out there, because again, I've done it, and so I'll be fine. I'm actually also, the float tote comes, I don't know if I've got it, oh I do have it. In the bottom there is a tray, and then as part of the pattern there are 3 cups. And I don't know if I'm going to bother with the tray and the cups. When she wrote the pattern, her original plan for the pattern or for the design was to be able to have something where you could do color work. And so you'll have the tray with the cups holding your yarn, and then you can just rotate it back and forth as you work. I am really not using those cups because I prefer the yarn cozies that I knit. So I probably will skip the tray and the cups for the next one. But I do like it as a nice big project bag for like a sweater. Like my Longline Cardigan would be perfect in it right now, or for my Faro Sweater for that matter. I'm kind of leaving some of these bigger projects like just sitting on top of my baskets, and it's getting a little unwieldy. So I thought having a second float tote might be kind of convenient and handy. So that crochet along starts April 4th. I will make sure to include a link to her website so that you can sign up. It is free. You get access to a Discord where people will be talking about it. I don't know if she's doing any prizes or if it's just a kind of a crochet along kind of a thing, but it is open to everybody. So definitely go check it out. I do also have a new addition on my yarn shelf. This is actually one I ordered back in February, but it only arrived, I think it arrived the week before last, and I would have had it to talk about last week, but I didn't podcast. So this yarn is by Little Wolf Knits. It's on her Sunfish color base, and it is called Two Best Friends, and it was part of her Wicked collection. For those of you who have seen the movie Wicked or the play, the musical, then you'll be familiar with the song Two Best Friends. It's probably one of the most popular songs. She had a total of 4 yarns that she did in this collection, and it was available through the end of February, and I resisted and resisted, and then on like, I don't know, it was like February 26th, like it was really close to the end of the month. I was laying in bed on Instagram, probably shouldn't have done that. And she had a picture of this one. So again, here, let me show you the yarn, but it's called Two Best Friends. So it really captures both Galinda and Elphaba. And what got me is Brianna, in her post, talked about setting aside one of the skeins so that she can knit a pair of socks during the second release, or the release of the second half of the movie in November. So, yep, I fell down at that point. There was 4 of them. I don't remember the other 3, but I preferred this one, and so this one came in. It is a fingering weight 75-25 superwash merino nylon. So, and I've not ever knit with any of Brianna's yarn, so I'm pretty excited to give this one a try. It's gonna go into my stash and live there until the fall when the movie comes out. So, but this is my latest yarn acquisition. All right, this week's day to day is gonna be kind of long. I was actually good to myself. I had made the notes and everything last week and then just didn't podcast. So at least I didn't have to go digging in my memory banks for 2 weeks, because I don't know how well I would have been able to do it, to be honest. But first of all, again, daylight savings time is just really kicking my tushy this year. I feel like I'm finally starting to gain some traction. I'm not quite as sleepy, but man, my mornings, and my alarm goes off at 5:15 in the morning, so my mornings have been rough. but I think I'm finally getting there. The Tuesday, so 2 weeks from 2 weeks from tomorrow, today's Monday, so we had, our high school came down and worked with our kids, my 8th graders, to get them all registered for the classes, but then that night we drove up to Orono because my son Elijah had a band concert, and so that's where my Musselburgh got the first little chunk of knitting done. I think I knit on my sweater, my Longline Cardigan. I think I knit on my Longline Cardigan in the car because when we left, it was still daylight. But I know I had this in the auditorium with me and I worked on that and I did probably 6 or 7 rows, 8 rows maybe, during the concert itself. So that was good. They did such a great job. I always enjoy listening to them. On Thursday of that week, we had our annual, I guess we could call it, winter day out. So this whole school basically had a field trip. And half of the building-ish went to one of the local ski resorts about an hour away where kids were able to go skiing if they wanted. They could do snow tubing, they could snowboard, or if they wanted to just hang out in the lodge and play games, they could do that. We had, of the half that was left, a third of those went to the local roller rink and did roller skating, and then the other 2/3 of that half that was left went ice skating. So that was kind of fun. We had the kids all in different directions. I actually had a counselor's meeting at the high school, so I didn't have to chaperone, but for like, I think it was 10:30 or 10:15, we were just finishing up and I knew that they were gonna be at the ice arena until about 11. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go over. I probably should. I shouldn't just go back to the building. So I did. I joined them at the ice arena. It was cute. It was fun. And they didn't, it's not like they needed a ton of supervision at that point. And I was only there for like 20-25 minutes. And then I headed back because I had to be back in order. I wanted to make sure I beat them back in order to do lunch duty. Because our schedule was all messed up. And so I ended up on lunch duty that day. And I wanted to pick up my lunch at the local Panera, which is like literally right around the corner from the ice arena. So I took the opportunity to do that. And then the very next day, on the Friday, we all, as a middle school, all shuttled over to the high school. And the high school did a concert for our middle schoolers. It was both band and chorus. And so they got to sit, we have a brand new high school. Our high school is only 2 years old. We have a beautiful, beautiful auditorium. Matter of fact, it's the 3rd largest auditorium in the state. It is just totally fantastic, absolutely beautiful, a dream come true for sure. So it was a treat for our kids to be able to go and experience the high school, to sit in that beautiful auditorium. Acoustics are phenomenal. The kids did a great, great job. And watched basically their peers perform. So that was really cool. And then Elijah came home. Actually, he got home around noon. So by the time I got home from work, he was already home for spring break. So that was super cool. I don't have any specific notes on the weekend, but I think it was actually fairly quiet. I think we did go to breakfast the next day, as I recall. That's kind of one of Elijah's favorite things. So we definitely try to hit breakfast one of the days when he's home. And then last week it was busy at work, but my evenings were fairly quiet, which was really good. Thursday specifically, just this past Thursday, we had our career day for 7th grade, and all of our 7th grade students were bused over to the local community college where they got to experience 3 different careers and sit through presentations about those careers. So that was really, really cool. But I'm glad that's over. That took a lot of planning on my part. And then Friday, we had our in-service day. Oh, back up into the week before, something I forgot to put down here, where another big chunk of my hat knitting happened, is the Friday night, so a week and a half ago, we went to a play at our local theater, so which we had tickets to. So that's where I got another chunk of hat knitting done. And then I brought it to breakfast the next day. But anyway, fast forward again. This past Friday, we had our teacher in service day, and we were, again, the whole district met at the high school, and we were in the auditorium for a day-long presentation on Poverty. It's the Bridges Over Poverty, if any of you are familiar with that. We sat through that training. So it was like 3.5 or 4 hours in the morning, and then we had lunch, and we had another hour, and then we had some breakouts. But so like for 4-ish hours, 4.5 hours, we were just sitting there in the auditorium. So I was knitting away the whole time. So I got a nice big chunk. On Saturday in the morning, we did a training for Odyssey of the Mind for our judges. We are 2 weeks away from our tournament, which is very exciting. So we had our judges training, and then we had something else we had to do in the afternoon. But as part of that, we were driving by where my local yarn store is, and that's when I stopped by and ran in, and then I snagged another ball of yarn. So I'm happy to have that. So at least I didn't need to slow down my progress on my sweater. And then yesterday, Sunday, was a fairly quiet day. Went to church, went to Hannaford, and we were getting ready to go. My husband was gonna go visit his mom, and I was planning to go, and my oldest son, my younger son, was getting ready to head back to college. And I'm literally headed to the car. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so tired and just mentally exhausted. And I looked at my husband and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna stay home. And so that's what I did. And I had the whole house to myself, literally to myself, because after my husband and older son left, like 10 minutes later, my younger son headed off, and my husband had taken the dogs with him. So I was literally by myself for about 4 hours, and it was so needed. I did not even realize how much I needed it. And by the time he came home, he's like, how was your time? I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like the fog is lifted. Like I really needed that quiet time. So I knit and watched some stuff on YouTube, or Peacock actually. I think I was watching one of my shows that I like to watch, and it was fantastic. So here we are, Monday, snowing. My husband started a new job today, so I'm hoping he gets home safely because he's in Portland, which is about a 40-minute drive. So I can't wait to hear all about that. But at any rate, with that is about all I have for today. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I will have links below in the show notes to all of the things that I have talked about. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please do hit the like button, or subscribe to the channel. Talk to me, leave me comments. I love to hear your comments, and I would love to have a conversation with you about some of the projects maybe that you're doing and how you have felt about some of the patterns. Have you worked with any of the patterns that I'm doing, and what your experiences have been? You may also find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Knittin Michelle, KNITTINMICHELLE. You could send me an email at michellesfiberstudio@gmail.com. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful week and happy knitting.